A year into her second marriage, every night was a sleepless battle. She was desperate for a child. Her husband played the cold, distant part, but a dark monster lurked beneath his skin. Caught between two powerful men in her past life, Sina bet all her cards on Count Shaka. He fed her sweet lies about love, while maintaining a secret harem behind her back. He betrayed his pregnant wife, dragging her to a frozen wasteland before casting her off a cliff. But fate had other plans. Reborn 2 years in the past, she knew Prince Phaeton was coming soon. He was coming for a sacrificial bride. Rumor had it Prince Lutz was a bloodthirsty demon, a war-obsessed maniac who lost his mind at the mere scent of blood. He crushed the Sarn kingdom, forcing them to offer a princess just to survive his wrath. They said he was a powerless puppet prince, and back then Sinar fell for the deception. She actually pitied the woman who had to marry him. Then the crown prince dropped dead. Lutz seized the throne in a bloodbath. That sacrificial princess, she became the ultimate empress, while Sinar died in the snow, murdered by the man she thought loved her. Now her heart burned with pure hatred. She didn't want love, she wanted to protect her child. Shaka destroyed her hope once. This time she'd make her son the ruler of the empire. Sinar's mother was nothing but a palace maid forced into the old emperor's bed. In the imperial harem, her mother's status was lower than the dirt on their boots. So, when the wealthy Count Châtelet proposed, her mother thought they'd finally hit the jackpot. Her mother just wanted her to be a perfect wife. Past Sinar wanted that too. But that dream ended in a nightmare. Now she needed Lutz to be the one to propose. A low-ranking princess like her had zero chance of meeting the victorious prince. Then Sinar remembered a crucial detail. In her past life, Lutz butchered the palace for one item. She tracked down the guard holding the key to her future. She demanded the pouch, the one embroidered with a goddess and dripping in purple gems. The guard played dumb, terrified that admitting he had it meant a death sentence. Sinar stayed firm. "Give it to me. I'll face Lutz myself. You'll stay out of it." After some convincing, the guard caved. She finally had it in her hands. It looked like a normal, elegant accessory, but she knew its true terrifying value. Legend said Lutz would kill for this pouch. Rumors claimed it was his mother's final memento. This was her golden ticket to get an audience with the monster prince. Suddenly, a cold blade pressed against her throat, silent and deadly. Sinar froze. "How did you get in?" Lutz didn't answer. His breathing was heavy and ragged. He lunged at her like a predator, his eyes filled with a terrifying beastly hunger. He slammed her into the floor, snatching the pouch from her trembling fingers. "I got it back before blood was spilled," he growled, raising his sword to finish her. Her heart stopped. He thought she was just another thief. "Your Highness, wait," she screamed. "I didn't steal it. I was going to bring it to you tomorrow morning." Lutz paused, lowering the steel. Why would she protect a thief just to see him? "Nobody sees me willingly," he sneered. "Unless that thief is your secret lover." "No, I just didn't want a simple misunderstanding to trigger another war." Unfortunately for her, Lutz wasn't buying her noble act for a second. "Such touching patriotism," he mocked. "Where was this concern for peace before? Your people's greed for our land still reeks of blood. The stench hasn't faded." Sinar flinched. "I know Sarn is to blame. My father promised you any of the 5 princesses." Lutz laughed coldly. "Too bad the first princess is too precious to be thrown to a beast. Trading a city for a concubine's daughter. I assume you're that illegitimate princess everyone is gossiping about." In his past life, Prince Lux had picked a bride at random, barely uttering a single word to her after their wedding. He was a man consumed by duty, yet that neglected heir eventually rose to become the official crown prince. Haunted by the ghost of her unborn son, Sinar gathered her courage. "Yes, Your Highness," she whispered. "I don't know your choice, but if the seat is empty, please choose me." For the first time, a woman had the audacity to speak to him with such fire. Lux was stunned. He had planned to visit her tomorrow to return her bag, and to properly introduce himself. "If you pick me, I'll do anything for you." Lux let out a dark, twisted laugh. He had bled to win this war, only for his father to force a marriage with a bastard girl from a defeated land. The thought originally annoyed him, but now things were getting interesting. The man lit every candle and began to scrutinize her. "This is a unique reward. Is a woman in her nightgown actually proposing to me?" Sinar flushed with panic. Her silk gown was paper-thin and left nothing to the imagination. "Why hide? Didn't you want to be my wife? You shouldn't try to make me happy." Sinar's mind sharpened with a survival instinct for the sake of the son. She hoped to meet again. She steeled herself. "If my exposure pleases you, I am willing." The man smirked his interest, piquing, as he slowly discarded his outer robe. Sinar's pulse raced. Was she really going to surrender herself so unexpectedly? Lux draped his heavy cloak over her shoulders. "You've truly entertained me. Wear this while I'm still in a good mood. Now tell me your real motive." Why would a princess go to such desperate lengths? Sinar couldn't confess her regression. Even if she did, he'd think she was insane. Instead, she pivoted. "Someone has proposed to me, but I refuse to marry him. Why not just say no? As a princess, I have no choice. My father will surely sell me off unless someone of higher status claims me, and that someone can only be you, Your Highness. You've surely heard the rumors about me, the madman who bows to no one, compared to other women. The scent of blood excites me more. Are you terrified? I'm not, but I have one request. Please let me have a son. Love is irrelevant, but you must make our son your heir and shield him. Lux was about to reply when a maid suddenly knocked. This isn't the right time to talk. Lux leaned in and whispered, meet me at the West Palace tomorrow at noon. You'll have my answer then. Then he vanished. The next day, Sinar transformed into a vision of elegance. Her maids were absolutely speechless. Their lady was usually a wallflower. Today she was stunning, but Sinar was a nervous wreck inside. The prince wasn't a man swayed by beauty. This outfit was purely for respect. Servants will always be servants. Running to a handsome prince just to bring shame to our kingdom, Sinar offered a stiff formal bow. Greetings to the first and third imperial highnesses. Look at her pathetic attitude, no wonder. Count Shuttle is so obsessed. Now she's hunting the Prince of Tricos, just like her scandalous mother. Those venomous words pierced Sinar's heart. She knew her mother was a victim, but she couldn't fight back. Luckily, Lux's aide Evan stepped in to rescue her from the humiliation. By then, Lux was already waiting. After a formal greeting, she presented a carefully prepared gift box. I was far too impulsive yesterday. Thank you for the robe last night. I didn't get to introduce myself. My name is... Unexpectedly the man. Cut her off. I don't care about your name. Regarding your bold request from yesterday, I have my own conditions. If you agree, I'll make you my wife. But first, it's well known Chattel is obsessed with you. Why run from him? He seems like a much safer bet for you. Sinar was left speechless. How could she explain that Chattel would eventually murder her and her child? She simply emphasized her distaste for the Count and declared her only desire was to marry Prince Lux. I will be your most faithful wife. You'll only hold the title of consort out of sheer duty. I will have an heir with you, but I won't accept any other demands. Even if you give birth, you'll gain no power. These are my stakes. Compared to a cold death, these terms were trivial. Sinar accepted with a smile. Seeing her nod to such harsh terms, Lux had nothing left to say. I'll propose tomorrow. Sinar thanked him. I'll be loyal to you. The following morning, her mother brought out her final jewels, hoping her daughter would look her best. The ornament was breathtaking. Even the legitimate princess who usually treated her like a maid was left seething. Knowing Count Chattel would propose today you dress like this to stand by us, you look like an absolute mess. One wrong move, and the Count might reconsider. Just as Sinar reached her limit with these mind games, Chattel finally appeared. I barely recognized you. You're breathtaking today. He ogled her with a gaze dripping with unfiltered predatory lust. It was repulsive. Sinar tried to stay invisible, but in a heartbeat everything shifted. Chattel snatched her hand. What happened here? He demanded, eyeing the jagged cut she got from that bag incident. It was just a minor scratch from 2 days ago, yet his rage flared. Your servants need better discipline, he spat. How could they let their lady get hurt? He brought her hand to his lips. Heartbreaking. Sinar recoiled in pure disgust. He was treating her like property. Chattel's expression soured, but seeing a crowd approaching, he quickly masked his irritation. He flashed a fake, gentle smile. Princess, have I offended you? She met his gaze with cold, burning hatred. Before she could snap back, a voice cut through the air. Found you at last. I've been searching everywhere. Lutz took her hand tenderly, pressing a soft kiss to her skin. Sorry for the wait. Shattel's grip tightened instantly. Our customs clearly differ. In Tricus, kissing a stranger's hand is considered a massive sign of disrespect. Lutz didn't flinch. He maintained an iron grip on Chattel's hand, refusing to back down an inch. You preach etiquette while thirsting for foreign lands, a mere noble, interrupting a prince greeting a princess ridiculous. What is this? Are you implying Sar has zero interest in keeping the peace with Tricus? The king and queen rushed in, faces pale. The aging emperor looked completely rattled by the sudden tension. Prince of Phaeton Count Chattel. Things seem heated. Let's skip the pleasantries. I heard a princess was being offered. I'll choose now. Your Majesty, wait, Chattel barked. I was promised the announcement of my marriage to Princess Sienna today. Lutz smirked. What a coincidence. I was just about to pick that very same princess. The emperor stood frozen. Both want her. Chattel doubled down on Sienna, while Lutz declared she was the only one he'd accept. The emperor was trapped. He couldn't provoke the conquering prince or break his solemn vow to Count Chattel. Consider the other 4 princesses, he pleaded. They might suit you better. Unexpectedly, Lutz changed the subject entirely. I originally planned to burn this palace and take the princesses as slaves, Lutz declared coldly. But I refrained out of respect for my father. Yet this man keeps interrupting me. Is this how a defeated nation behaves? The emperor panicked. If this madman snapped, it was game over. He immediately turned his fury toward Chattel. Ordering him to apologize, Chattel had no choice but to bow and beg for mercy. Then, Lutz doubled down. I don't need the others. I only want Princess Sinar. Seeing the opening, the 5th consort stepped forward desperate. Lutz added, Sinar helped me yesterday. She's my benefactor, and the only person in this room I desire. She's the only one for me. Sinar knew he was acting, but her heart still swelled with gratitude. This was the only way her mother could be safe. The emperor agreed instantly, turning his sharp gaze to Sinar. He commanded her to serve the prince well and ensure the fragile peace between their nations remained intact. Finally, she could breathe. Her gamble had paid off. Only Chatel was left fuming, grinding his teeth in fury. Annoyed Lutz suggested the emperor just hand Chatel a different princess. You only have eyes for one, right? Shut up and pick, Lutz threatened. Knowing there was no escape, Chatel closed his eyes and pointed blindly. Sienna. Sienna was floored. How? In her past life, she was Lutz's bride, but in this timeline everything had flipped. Now she was stuck with the count, while Sinar claimed the prince's side. Their destinies had been completely reversed. Once the dust settled, Lutz made an excuse to lead Sinar away. They walked in silence toward a secluded spot. The sweltering heat made the prince drowsy, but Sinar felt a pang of sorrow. Tricus was eternally frozen. She might never see Sar's seasons again. Suddenly, she spotted a couple, the woman clearly on the verge of childbirth. She thought of her unborn child from her past life. When will we meet again? She missed them terribly. Why are you crying? Her hands were soaked with tears. She wiped them away frantically. Forgive me, Your Highness. I thought you were asleep. Thinking of my mother just made me emotional. That sobbing consort. Was she your mother? Yes, sir. She was just a lowly palace maid surviving at the very bottom of the imperial harem. I fear her life will be even harder once I leave. So that's why they call you the half-princess. Because of your mother's background, Sinar nodded anxiously. Yes, that is exactly right. The man's expression darkened instantly. Great, he's clearly repulsed by my lowly status. I really should have kept my mouth shut. But whether I spoke up or not, Prince Lux would have uncovered the truth eventually. What if he totally changes his mind? A king who preys on women while wasted is absolute trash. Honestly, your father is the one who sparked this entire disaster. Yet your mother is the one taking all the heat. This kingdom is just toxic from the trash weather to the culture. I'm over everything here. Once the wedding is done, we're leaving. Until then, just stay close to your mother. He stood up and reached out. Let's head back. It's a total furnace out here. But she just stared her face, a complete mask. What's with that look? We don't do the whole gentleman escort thing here. Sinar forced a small smile. Thanks. Just don't cry in public. You'll make it look like I'm forcing you. If you do that whole deeply in love performance will be a total waste. Don't think that I meant any of that stuff at the banquet. I was just playing a part. Don't catch feelings. Besides, if I act more obsessed, your mother might finally chill out. She blinked, totally stunned. You did all that, just for my mother. The man scowled. I just can't stand the sound of women crying. Sinar offered a genuine smile. Thank you for being so thoughtful. Watt's face turned beet red. Don't get it twisted. I'm not caring for you. Stop being weird and let's go. Back in her room, May was already waiting. She offered her congrats before her voice trailed off in pure terror. I'm so sorry. I never imagined Count Chatel would actually choose me. Sinar's heart softened. May was 3 years younger than her after all, a shy wallflower from the crumbling Fourth Palace. In Sinar's past life, they were practically total strangers. Sinar stepped in to comfort her. No need to apologize, the Count is the one who picked you. Plus, those rumors are pure cap. I'm hyped to marry Prince Viton, but for you, this sudden engagement must feel like a total nightmare. Surprisingly, May turned a deep shade of crimson. Actually, I've always low-key wanted to marry someone exactly like the Count. I never thought my dreams would actually come true. I'm honestly really happy. So May was genuinely crushing on Chatel. Could this be a win? If our fates were swapped, what would happen to May? Deep in thought, while walking, she didn't see where she was going, and slammed right into Chatel. Princess, there you are. We need to talk. Sinar spoke up first. Congratulations, Count. Please make sure you take good care of Princess May. Chatel's jaw tightened. I don't want your congrats. Save that talk for after you finally come to your senses. Sinar recoiled in fear. This marriage was already sanctioned by His Majesty. So what? You think I'm just giving up? Just watch me. I'm definitely going to rescue you. Sinar, you belong to me. She turned pale with fright. Count Chatel, you're clearly wasted. I'll just pretend I never heard a word you said. She bolted, only to crash right into Lux around the corner, already on edge. She nearly jumped out of her skin. Then she instantly switched to a soft, pleading look. Your Highness, I've been looking everywhere for you. She gripped his cloak like a lifeline, her eyes filled with desperation. By then, Lux's gaze had already locked onto Chatel. Seeing another man glare at his fiancée with such aggression, it was time to make him face the cold reality. He grabbed Sinar's hand and made a formal request to the Emperor. My stunning bride looks a bit bored, so I'm asking for a dance. But just the two of us is dull. Why don't the other couple join us on the floor? That would be way more fun. What could the old Emperor say? He eagerly gave his blessing. Being this close made Sinar feel incredibly shy. The crowd was already gushing about them being the ultimate power couple. Finally, she realized Lux was marking his territory. She hoped Chatel would take the hint and back off, but then she caught his eye. His gaze was burning with pure, stubborn resolve. This was definitely backfiring. Now I get why you hate this guy. That toxic look in his eyes could literally pierce right through my skull. Hang in there, Sinar. She didn't understand what he meant until he suddenly hoisted her up. That display of raw strength was breathtaking. The entire crowd gasped. Then Watts lowered Sinar, keeping her locked in a tight embrace. Sinar, I want a closer look. He leaned in, closing the gap inch by inch. Seeing Chatel's face turn sour in the background was pure bliss. He went even further, gently cupping her cheek before pressing a tender kiss to her lips. She was completely stunned. Things were moving way too fast. This is just an act to make Chatel give up, she told herself. Yet her heart was thumping like a drum, beating faster and faster. All around them, the gossip was flying. Northerners really expressed their love so directly. I heard Prince Lux avoided women like the plague, but he's clearly fallen for Sinar at first sight. Some were purely jealous, while others were green with envy. Chatel watched the locked embrace with eyes so dark they looked ready to spill over. The day of the wedding ceremony finally arrived. Willow branches symbolizing eternal life bound the couple's fate together forever. The mere mention of the fertility gate sends a violent shudder through Sinar. She must protect her past life son at any cost. The ritual begins smoothly, but as the high priest grasps Lux's hand, a chilling realization strikes him. The Emperor panics, demanding sacred relics as tension suffocates the grand hall. Is there a problem? The Emperor asks. I detect dark magic. The room freezes. A prince tainted by demonic energy. The priest's grim face paralyzes the crowd. If he's cursed, the marriage is off. Lux's eyes burn with icy defiance. Secretly, he pricks his finger, staining it with blood, a hidden sacrificial seal. Trying to dodge your war debts, Lux snarls. The priest hesitates, feeling the pressure. Holy water is splashed. If he's corrupted, black smoke will erupt instantly. Lux wipes his face unfazed. Looks like your intuition failed you this time. How will you pay for this insult? Lux's smile is sharp as a blade. The priest demands a retest, but Lux snaps. Enough, Trika won't be humiliated. The Emperor barks at the priest to apologize and finish the ceremony immediately. The ritual continues, unaware Lux is using fresh blood to mask his power. Back at the palace, Evan stares at the massive 500,000 gold tribute. Lux is blunt. We leave today. There's no time for lengthy explanations. The priest's aura sensing was dangerously close. Evan's heart beats out of his chest. Using that blood-stained bag again, Lux pricked his finger for a desperate reason. He absorbed the goddess's icon energy to cloak the darkness swirling inside him. The Trican royal secret must remain buried. They have to move right now. Lux gasps out final orders for Sinar before his world goes pitch black. Meanwhile, Sinar shares a tearful final goodbye with her terrified, worried mother. Her mother offers a mysterious fertility potion, the same one from her past life. In that life, this brew brought her a son, but also endless heartache. Despite the trauma, she feels the weight of her mother's desperate love. Sinar clings to her tightly. This might be their last embrace forever. The convoy readies. The Emperor sees Sinar only as a political, sacrificial pawn. Be a good sacrifice for peace, he commands. No love, just cold duty. Even with past life memories, his icy indifference still stings Sinar's soul. Lux had already vanished, likely fuming from the High Priest's baseless interrogation. Smooth things over with the prince, her father orders. Sinar nods obediently. The group departs. Daya, the loyal maid, begins to cry her eyes out. Sinar brought her along this time to save her from a gruesome fate. After a day of begging, Daya got her wish, but her mood shifts. She's not sad anymore. She's livid at Lux's disrespectful and shameful behavior. He was sweet yesterday, then ditched his own wedding night. Daya fumes. Sinar doesn't mind. Escaping the palace was her only real goal anyway. If he ignores her, it's a small price for freedom. Then Evan appears. He brings a message from Lux. Urgent business, requires an early departure. His Highness sends his deepest apologies for leaving you behind like this. It's a complete lie. Lux is unconscious and can't say a single word. Sinar feels relieved. At least she isn't being blamed for the sudden friction. Meanwhile, the news reaches Count Chait. The wedding night was officially skipped. The prince abandoned her. Sinar remains untouched as they head for Trika. The squad hunkered down at Duan Castle, only to discover Lutz was lurking there too. Sinar requested a royal dinner, but Evan's guilt peaked. He couldn't keep lying to the princess consort anymore. Behind closed doors, he dropped the bombshell the prince had collapsed from lethal poison. With his half-brothers thirsty for the throne, keeping his critical condition top secret was a matter of survival. They needed a stealthy dawn exit. Evan hoped the princess consort wouldn't resent their sudden flight. Lutz was stable, but totally blacked out, forcing the princess consort to sleep in the adjacent chamber alone. Sinar was rocked. How could a warrior that formidable be brought down by a cowardly toxin? She kept Dallas in the dark to avoid wild conspiracy theories. Another wedding night spent in isolation. No feast, no husband. Dallas insisted on staying close as a bone-chilling frost gripped the castle walls. Shivering awake, Sinar didn't notice the predator looming. Suddenly, she was bound hand and foot trapped. Gagged and helpless, her captor growled, "Make a sound, and I will make this much more painful." Paralyzed by fear, she realized this ghost knew every corner of Duan Castle, ghosting past every guard patrol. Why take her? As they vanished into the darkness, rescue felt like a fading dream. Her soul screamed for a savior. Meanwhile, back within the fortress walls of Duan, Lutz finally clawed his way back to consciousness after 24 hours in the dark. He immediately croaked out Sonar's name. Evan puffed his chest, swearing the princess was safe and sound. "She is worried sick about you," Evan claimed right before a thunderous crash rocked the door. "Your Highness, emergency Princess Sinar has been snatched." Evan scrambled to mobilize a search party, but Lutz refused. This mission required absolute secrecy. If word got out that both royals had vanished, Sinar's reputation would be scorched forever. They would spin a cover story: the prince whisked his mysterious bride away for a private getaway. Evan was baffled but obeyed, agreeing to rendezvous in 3 days. The clock was ticking. The culprits, either that maniac Chatel or the treacherous third prince. Every second counted now. He had to find her alive. Meanwhile, Evan was tasked with hunting the mastermind in the shadows. Without the goddess's pouch, Lutz felt exposed. Someone wanted him to snap and trigger a war. They aimed to wreck the peace treaty by using Sinar as the ultimate bait to trap him. After his mother died, the new empress moved her younger son in proof of the emperor's betrayal. His crown was stolen by one half-brother, while the other tried to strip him of everything else. His royal standing was crumbling, but he wasn't about to roll over and accept his own destruction. While Lutz planned his move, Sinar was being dragged deeper into enemy territory. They were heading toward Trichus. Could the mastermind be a ghost from her previous life? The Trika throne war was brutal. Either the crown prince or third prince was likely behind this. But when they stopped, the face waiting for her sent a chill down her spine. Count Chatel. "I told you I would save you, Sinar. Since that brute Lutz hasn't claimed you, you're finally mine." The wind howled through Mount Nujor, the exact spot where Chatel had murdered her once before. Would he kill her again? What about her child? The crushing weight of fate triggered her survival instinct. She refused to repeat the past. But how could a shivering woman in thin robes escape 2 men? Chatel draped his coat over her shoulders, whispering, "Don't be afraid, Sinar. I will cherish you. Our first night will be magic. Let me warm your fragile body, my weak little princess." Knowing brute force was useless, Sinar switched tactics, gently caressing Chatel's face. "Count," she purred. "This is so unromantic. Our situation is messy since they forced me to marry, but I know you adore me. I truly want to melt into your embrace like real lovers do. But I am freezing. Can we wait until I am warm?" Chatel's ego soared at her sweetness. "Totally bewitched," he softened. "You are right, Sinar. I shouldn't have been so aggressive. Our night deserves romance. That brute exhausted me. I need to freshen up and change first." Chatel was lost in a delusional daydream, his mind swirling with absolute nonsense. "You deserve a warm bath prepared by my own hands," he smirked, slamming the door shut. Sinar waited breathless. Once the footsteps faded, she bolted toward the balcony with desperate speed. The drop was lethal. Panicked, she tore down the curtains and knotted them into a lifeline. Meanwhile, Chatel hummed a twisted tune while gathering supplies, returning with a creepy, affectionate smile. "Sorry for the wait," he began, but seeing her mid-escape, his face exploded into pure rage. Sinar scrambled up the wall, but a hand clamped onto her wrist. Chatel yanked the rope back. He hauled her up and slammed her onto the floor. "What exactly were you doing?" he growled. Sinar met his gaze with pure venom. Enraged, he seized her throat. "How dare you deceive me? You maid's brat? I offered you honor, yet you act like a total ungrateful brat. You even look down on me. I was going to make you a princess, my own wife. Since you chose the hard way, you're my plaything now. Damn it, I marked your face. Scars ruin the vibe. Come here, let me fix this. But remember, if you defy me again, you'll wish you were dead." Meanwhile, Luz was desperate. He hated using magic, but time was up. He activated the mana crystal to track her scent. This primal power was hardwired into his soul. His beastly senses expanded, detecting faint traces that no ordinary human could ever hope to perceive. His sensory web stretched thin until bingo. He found it. Sinar's hair ribbon was nearby. He rushed to the spot, but only found a cold corpse. He reactivated the crystal immediately. The trail led to that building. She was there. But suddenly Luz's body began to fail him. He was overdrawing his magical reserves. One more step and he'd snap, but he pushed through. Chatel left to fetch medicine, leaving a chilling warning. "Try to run and I'll break your legs." Anxiety gnawed at Sinar. She couldn't let him win. This was becoming worse than her past life. Her mind raced as she scanned the room, searching for anything she could use as a weapon. Suddenly, the door rattled. Chatel was back. She didn't have a single second to waste. She snatched a tool and ducked behind the door, ready to strike the moment it opened. Wait, why wasn't he using a key? A violent splintering sound echoed through the room. The door shattered as Prince Luz burst through. He stopped cold, surprised to see her armed. "Whoa, planning to hit me or welcome me?" he joked, trying to break the heavy tension. Sinar didn't answer. She just threw herself into his arms, her paralyzing terror finally dissolving. Tears flooded her eyes. Your Highness, thank you. Thank you so much for finding me, she sobbed. Luz's face turned bright red. Don't cry, please just stop crying, he stammered, completely flustered. She clung to him tighter. Overwhelmed by her soft scent, Luz struggled to keep his composure. Sinar finally pulled back, wiping her eyes. Forgive me, Your Highness. I lost my self-control. I was just so happy to see you. That's when Luz spotted the brutal marks on her. Rage flared in his chest at her bruised neck. Without a word, he unfastened his outer cloak. He wrapped her up and swept her into his arms. Hold on tight. We're leaving now. Sinar felt instantly safe. She leaned into his chest, finally letting her guard down in his embrace. But as they reached the exit, they ran straight into the psycho himself, Chattel. He'd returned early. The coward froze, then immediately bolted toward the village to find guards. Luz gently set Sinar down, telling her to stay put while he handled the trash. The idiot returned with a smug grin. The Night Brigade is coming. You're all finished. Hand her over and I might let you live. Who ordered the kidnapping? Luz demanded coldly. Give her back first. Luz didn't play games. His sword blurred, defeating the creep in 2 strikes. Talk if you want to keep your fingers, Luz hissed. Chattel still tried to act tough. One brutal kick later, Chattel was spitting teeth as Luz's boot crushed his chest into the dirt. Who pulled your strings? Chattel stayed tight-lipped. Looking at the clock, the Night Brigade was closing in. Lux flashed a mocking grin. Expecting your Night Brigade 11 guys in black with red armor, right? Too bad. I already slaughtered them all. Overusing that mana crystal has pushed me to the edge. Lux's internal power spiraled into an uncontrollable fury. After shredding that unlucky night squad, he wasn't finished. Lux aimed his blade at Chattel's throat. Talk. Who gave the order? Chattel's courage instantly evaporated. He was Trika's 3rd prince. He was merely a puppet, following royal commands to the letter. So it was his own half-brother. Lux's eyes darkened, and his blade drew fresh blood. That's the fee for touching my wife. Suddenly, the room below fell into a deathly silence. The Lord couldn't help but stare. The Count's face was a mangled, swollen, and unrecognizable mess. Lux stripped Chattel's shoes for Sinar. The floor's freezing. These will have to do for now. A worried Sinar whispered. Is he dead? No, just fainted from terror. Not his time yet. Chattel was a traitor, but killing him now would invite attacks from his royal brothers in Sara. His father would also cause chaos. This vendetta had to end here for the time being. Regarding the kidnapping, Chattel likely wouldn't dare speak a word of it to anyone to save face. Lux admired Sinar. Facing this nightmare without a single tear, she was undeniably the bravest woman ever. Sinar's gaze was filled with warmth. I was terrified. But you actually came to save me. Lux actually blushed at her words. Suddenly, Evan arrived with reinforcements to handle the messy aftermath. They moved in a frenzy, unable to bring much equipment due to the extreme urgency of the situation. Lux and Sinar had to share a horse. He hoisted her up, seating her side saddle in front. Hold on tight. But then Lux mischievously jerked the reins, catching his wife completely off guard. A startled Sinar clung to him desperately. For the rest of the journey, both were in total agony. Sinar feared falling, pressing against him. Lux felt her softness battling his own rising, unusual sensations. Luckily, the carriage Evan prepared was close. They quickly transitioned into the more private, quiet cabin. Seeing Lux collapse from pure exhaustion, Sinar felt a wave of guilt. He'd searched all night long. She reached to cover him, but he swat her hand away, his eyes shut tight in fatigue. Stop. Just sit still, he rasped. Sinar froze, having no idea his mana was in total chaos. Lux's magic was spiraling out of control. Combined with her intoxicating scent, he was losing his composure. His face grew flushed. Thinking he had a fever, Sinar couldn't help but reach out to him. As her hand drew near, that dizzying aroma hit him like a heavy physical blow. Lux irritably snatched her hand. I told you, stay still. His skin felt like burning lava. Sinar's face turned crimson. How could he react like this now? She hadn't even done anything wrong. An awkward, heavy tension filled the carriage. Desperate, she finally asked, How did you find me? Your headband. I found it on a tree. I left it as a clue, hoping you'd see. You're impressive, Highness. Lux returned it. You did well, leaving a trail like a real pro. Seeing him grow weaker, Sinar suggested resting. Lux was barely clinging to his consciousness by a thread. They took shelter in a house. Lux was so frail, guards had to support his entire weight. Sinar hovered indecisively by the bed. Should she help clean him? Again, he ordered her to leave. Worried, Sinar stepped even closer. Lux growled like a cornered beast. I said, get out of here. It was torture. Her scent was becoming an overwhelming flood. Sinar reached for his rumpled clothes. Your Highness, you're suffering. Let me help you change. The moment she touched him, things changed. Lux lunged, pinning her down instantly. The atmosphere turned heavy, dangerous, and incredibly charged. Leave or don't blame me. Never dangle blood before a starving beast at such close range. Lux's internal storm surged. Why the sudden primal shift? Sinar wondered why his behavior had changed so drastically. Could poison be the cause of this? Seeing her silent, Lux gritted his teeth and recoiled from her. Leave, he barked a final warning. Leave now, or the wedding night starts here. Sinar didn't move an inch. She leaned into his sturdy frame. "Your Highness, I'm your wife. I'm staying." She knew he didn't love her. This rescue was strictly part of their deal. The future was a blur, so she needed an heir today. "I'll fulfill my duties." "I am your loyal wife." She boldly kissed his cheek, but Lutz suddenly recoiled. "I can't let instinct take over. I'll become a monster in her eyes." He tried to push her away, but her proximity made retreat impossible. He began to crave it. One night of passion and he was losing control. Seeing the marks on her skin, Lutz couldn't shake that intoxicating memory. Watching her eat, he caught himself daydreaming. If they didn't have to return to the palace today, he'd spend every single night in her arms. Was it the missing magic crystal? His rational mind was drowning in mana. This wasn't bloodlust. It was pure bliss, like floating among the clouds. He wanted her. Desperately. But Sinar was absolutely drained from the night. She was nodding off, so Prince Lutz stepped in to help. He cut her food and served her water. They looked like a real couple. The night was sweeter than rumored no violence, only tenderness. Breakfast ended quickly. Lutz's gaze darkened with intensity. Sinar satisfied, because now it's my turn again. She was stunned. Was he insane? They had a schedule to keep. They left late. In the carriage, the vibe was awkward. "Can you handle the ride?" She turned red. "I'm fine." Then the carriage jolted, and she gasped in pain. Lutz barked in order to slow down. Sinar was confused. Wasn't it urgent? They'd missed the royal banquet. Lutz just told her not to worry. "Just rest," she whispered. "You're the reason I can't rest at all." Lutz blushed instantly, leaning his head against her shoulder in total silence. "Just sleep," he stammered. Sinar caught his side eye and wondered. His ears were glowing red. "Actually, he's kind of cute," she realized. They finally met Evan's group. Her maid was a sobbing mess of relief. "Princess, you're safe." Evan, however, was suspicious of the prince's delay. Evan had the tea. The kidnapping was definitely the third prince's doing. But Lutz had to bury it. For now, the truth was too dangerous. One wrong move, and they'd be surrounded by enemies on all sides. He'd memorized this insult. Justice for Sinar would have to come later. The journey continued through the falling snow. Sinar was mesmerized by the flakes. As she reached out, Lutz watched her battling a strange new emotion. When his magic flared, he became a beast. Even his family feared him. Yet here she was embracing him. Why let himself feel anything now? Their deal was simple, an heir and nothing more. No promises made. But that feeling, it haunted him. He couldn't be this lucky forever. What if he lost control and hurt her? He had to kill these feelings. That was the contract. The group pushed hard toward the capital. Dubon, the capital of Trikas. Time for their happy couple performance. The excuse for the delay, a long honeymoon. They had to look smitten. "Don't get the wrong idea," he warned. "This is all just an act." Sinar felt a pang of sadness. So that night was just a repayment for her. They'd struck a deal before the vows. Lutz stole a glance at her, sliding a veil across. "Cover up," he commanded. Entering the den of lions, Sinar wondered, were the Trika laws really this strict about veils? Did they forbid women from showing their faces? Surely roaming around like this was a total taboo for someone like Sinar? The realization hit her, and her face turned crimson. Her body was a map of dark bruises. Before she could react, Lutz shoved a jewelry box toward her. "This is yours." Sinar took it. Her curiosity piqued. She gasped. Inside lay a breathtaking, opulent necklace. "I figured those marks on your neck needed hiding," Lutz muttered. "Evan found this piece. See if it masks the evidence." Truthfully, Lutz was clueless about jewelry. This was all Evan's doing. The gems sparkled, elevating her elegance to a whole new level. Sinar looked absolutely ethereal. Her charm skyrocketed, leaving Lutz totally mesmerized. She softly asked if the hickeys were finally hidden. She promised to return the treasure after the event. Lutz's face flushed as a wave of annoyance hit him. "Return it, don't be tedious," he grumbled, warning her to stay silent inside. These people were straight-up vipers. They stood before the Emperor. "Father, I've returned from my mission unscathed," Lutz declared. "Meet my wife, Sinar Vitan." The royals sat on their thrones, brows furrowed in distaste. Why is she hiding behind a veil? The second prince's choice felt like a blatant insult. The Empress barked an order for Sinar to reveal her face. Sinar froze, caught between two fires. Lutz stepped in his icy glare, piercing the Empress. The tension in the room turned suffocating. With a gentle nod from Sinar, Lutz peeled back the fabric. "As you see, I lost a bit of control last night. My wife is quite shy about my enthusiasm. Grant her this dignity, father." The Emperor erupted into a booming laugh. "My boy finally understands the pleasures of the flesh. Princess Sinar, keep the veil on. Your achievements are noted, Lutz. Now that you're wed, go ahead and enjoy the spoils of marriage. Princess Sinar, serve your husband well and secure the future of our great empire." "Trika will prosper," the Emperor began, but Lutz cut him off. "That title is wrong. She is my princess consort." Silence fell like a guillotine. Sinar knew this was all a calculated performance by Lutz. He wasn't protecting her. He was defying the family that loathed him. As the former empress's son, Lutz was the rightful heir. But Cusco had usurped his power, stripping Lutz of his crown, despite his legendary victories on the battlefield. The emperor's resentment flickered. He was clearly ticked off that they had prioritized their honeymoon. The banquet was delayed, disrespecting my officials. You both need to reflect on this insolence, the emperor spat. Gossips began to hiss as the emperor publicly shamed them. Lutz's knuckles turned white. His mother had been a queen in name only. She thought Lutz would win her the emperor's love. But when she realized his birth was seen as a curse, despair swallowed her whole until she withered away. Days later, Cusco waltzed into the palace to take her place. In that moment, young Lutz swore he'd never throw his life away for a love that would never love him back. He vowed never to be a slave to affection. Sinar noticed his dark shift in mood and tugged his sleeve. Lost in the trauma, Lutz's eyes turned predatory as he violently shoved her hand away. Sinar winced in fear. "Weren't we supposed to act in love?" Sinar whispered. Snapping back to reality, Lutz silently laced their fingers together. This was just a show, right? He had to keep it together. But the grand banquet was looming the next day. Sinar struggled to find a dress that wouldn't clash with Lutz's gift. They had left in such a chaotic rush. Daya finally found the perfect match, but Sinar's face went scarlet. "You really want me to wear this out?" The grand celebration finally kicked off. The southern heat was sweltering. Southern fashion was daring and skin-tight, unlike the frozen Trika Empire, where everyone stayed bundled in layers. Sinar felt exposed in the skimpy outfit, especially with every noble in the room burning holes through her. Their leering stares made her feel like a circus animal on display. It was humiliating. A man shadowed her every move, swirling a glass of wine with a sinister smirk. He closed in for the kill. He accidentally drenched her white cloak in wine, making the fabric translucent. He offered a fake, mocking apology. "How clumsy of me," sneered Prince Kilovitan. "I heard southern women were bold, but this is a whole new level. No wonder Lutz married you. I thought the second prince didn't have a pulse for women. Turns out he just likes them curvy." The room erupted into nasty whispers as Sinar trembled in shame. Staying here would only burden Prince Lutz and herself. From that moment on, Sinar embodied the grace of a true princess. "I'm still learning northern etiquette," she stated, sparking mocking laughter. "My deepest apologies to the third prince and his lady. Please guide me in the future." Quilo's expression soured instantly. The woman Sinar brought along was unexpectedly sharp. After a few cold pleasantries, he realized he had to keep her under strict surveillance. He turned and vanished. Sinar stood frozen in the awkward silence, debating whether to ask Daya for a fresh cloak. Praises were non-existent, drowned out by waves of burning envy and countless brazen glares. Suddenly, Lutz appeared. Sinar beamed with relief. "Your Highness, you came." Her beauty left Lutz breathless. "May I borrow your cloak? The crowd is much larger than expected." He shed his outer robe and wrapped her snugly. "Let's talk outside." His voice carried a sharp edge of irritation. "What were you thinking dressing like this?" Sinar whispered back. "My other gowns were far too thin, and nothing matched the necklace. I had a cloak, but the third prince ruined it with red wine." Tears welled in Sinar's eyes as her voice trembled. "Forgive me. I've brought shame upon you." The reality of the situation hit Lutz hard. He cursed himself for failing to provide her with proper attire. With chaos mounting, he felt the weight of every failure. He offered a sincere apology to his wife, promising an etiquette tutor by tomorrow. Softening his gaze, he comforted her. "Actually looking at you now. This dress is perfectly fine. It's czar fashion. As for the third prince, he only targeted you to spite me. Expect more of this. As I warned even as the princess consort, true power remains out of reach. Royal life is brutal." But Sinar had already steeled her heart. "I chose this marriage. I'll face every storm by your side." At those words, Lutz's heart wavered. He silently reached out, clasping her hand as they re-entered the ballroom. The Empress. Cusco, the usurper who stole the throne. The crown prince who snatched Lutz's rightful title. And the third prince, the true puppet master. All three were destined to perish within 2 years. Then the once-pitied Lutz. Baitan would ascend to Trika's highest throne. Feeling her intense gaze, Lutz shifted. "Why look at me like that?" Sinar smiled shyly. "Thank you for the cloak." But just as the tension melted, the Empress's mocking laughter cut through the air. Such unique attire for a princess. No wonder the second prince is so utterly smitten. She must have had countless suitors. "Sinar, I told you to address her as princess consort, not princess. Or has the Trika ceremony not happened? Legally, they aren't even husband and wife yet. How can a future royal fail to receive even a basic formal greeting? Royalty demands absolute perfection. If I truly enforced the rules, several families present would face execution. The Ortons, the Famais, and even the Sandys, leeching off the crown. How are you different from Trika's enemies? If my blade didn't protect you, you too wouldn't last a day in your seats." The accused immediately cried out, pleading their innocence. They claimed they were framed over those ceded territories. The emperor's jaw tightened in fury. "Why bring this up today? If you won't respect my wife, then you clearly don't see me as your son." The emperor brushed the comment aside. "The wedding is near. Just focus on being a proper royal." He promptly escorted the empress away. Once they were out of earshot, Sinar sighed softly. I've troubled you again. It's not you. They'd find any excuse to harass me. I'm the one who dragged you into this. Despite his icy tone, he was telling her not to feel guilty. Go rest. There are no allies here. Sinar tried to protest, but Lutz refused to let her endure more vitriol, ordering Evan to escort her away. Just then, a man blocked their path. Greetings, Princess Consort. I am Hackley. Lutz snapped, with disdain. Don't disturb someone trying to rest. My, the prince is so protective. Quiet, you Lutz, ushered her out. Until next time, Princess Hackley called. Sinar wondered who he was. Discovering he was the Imperial Chancellor left her stunned. He looked even younger than Lutz, proving his brilliance must be unmatched. That night, as she prepared to wash up Lutz, he stumbled in looking drained, pulling his wife into a desperate embrace. I'm losing it. From now on, that dress is for my eyes only. I low-key want to gouge those men's eyes out. Sinar held him close, her gentle touch, a soft balm to his jagged nerves. Even after she vanished, the crowd's toxic gossip about her look lingered. You've worked hard enough today, Your Highness. I'll watch my step next time. Luz's gaze turned soft and hazy before he leaned in for an irresistible kiss. It was wild. All that crushing frustration just evaporated the second she was near. Suddenly, the drama didn't matter. She was his wife, his forever, his entire world. He was ready to start their family, but Sinar teased him needing a bath first. Finally, his charms won her over. Bathing together was the goal. Meanwhile, the maid fretted, fearing the prince's lingering rage over that revealing dress. She was desperate to shield her lady and stop the prince's anger from boiling over. Just then, a small vial slipped out a fragrant perfume. If the princess smelled this divine, the prince might actually chill out. Daya dumped the entire bottle into the tub. Soon, Luz finished up. Luz snatched the towel from Daya, heading straight back in. Thick, heavy steam clouded the entire room. Sina's mind drifted back to the day's chaos. The prince was surprisingly sweet and way more protective than she'd imagined. She realized she was catching feelings. Then memories of their spicy night surfaced, making her face turn bright crimson. Could he actually have feelings for her? But right as that thought hit, a sharp sudden crash echoed. Lutz yanked her hand back, claiming her lips with a wild hunger. His gaze burned with a predatory glint. Sinar's soul trembled in terror. Why was the prince acting like a beast? She whispered a desperate plea. Your Highness, please. Be kind like before. But Lutz was lost, her voice drowned out by the storm. A strange fog clouded his senses. That intoxicating scent was driving his primal urges to the breaking point. He tried to fight the darkness, but his logic crumbled. That night, his raw instincts finally took control. Sinar endured the nightmare her cries ignored. She felt like a fool for ever catching feelings for him. He was just like Chatel, another cold man. She was nothing but a vessel for the next heir. She'd pour her love into her child instead. By sunrise, Lutz was drowning in a sea of regret. How could he lose control? He wanted to cherish her, yet he'd become her worst nightmare instead. What went wrong? The magic crystal should have kept his inner demons locked away safely under his command. Was he truly a mad beast? He feared her disgust. Would she only look at him with hatred now? Desperate for forgiveness, Lutz couldn't stand the coldness. He had to find a way to make amends. Recalling she loved meat, he ordered the servants to prepare a special feast for his princess's breakfast. He hurried back, finding her awake. His heart hammered against his ribs as he entered the silent room. He offered her water, hands shaking. Sinar hesitated, warning her heart not to fall for his kindness again. It's just a reward for last night, she thought. Lutz stammered, trying to apologize for the chaotic night. It's fine, Sinar interrupted coldly. We were just acting for the palace. No harm done, Your Highness. I'll fulfill our contract and provide the heir, nothing more. I won't be presumptuous about your feelings anymore. The rejection stung. Lutz bolted upright, his mind racing. This cold distance wasn't what he truly wanted. He was a monster in her eyes now, a danger that could snap and hurt her again. A bitter smirk touched his lips. How obedient. Fine, let's keep it strictly professional from now on. Recovered good. I'll be more efficient next time. Just tell me when you're ready to conceive the heir. She agreed instantly. She needed to get pregnant fast before he lost all interest in her presence. Hearing she only wanted a child triggered pure rage in Lutz's eyes. A child. Then get ready. Brace yourself. Sinar gave a cold smile. I'll be waiting in my chambers tonight, so don't be late. Don't expect mercy tonight, even if you beg, he growled before storming out in a fit of fury. The regret hit him instantly. Suddenly, a servant arrived with a shocking discovery from the royal bathhouse. They found traces of joy salt, a potent aphrodisiac that drives men into a mindless primal frenzy. Lutz's heart skipped. That scent from yesterday. It wasn't his lack of control, it was a trap. He wasn't a monster by choice. Relief washed over him, but a new confusing question emerged instead. Why would Sinar drug him? If she wanted to seduce him, she'd already won the entire night. Why the cold shoulder this morning? Women were a mystery he couldn't begin to solve or understand. His pride battled his desire to run back. He desperately needed to clear the air with her. Meanwhile, Sinar wrote to her mother while her maid Daya fumed over the prince's rough, beastly behavior. It's just my duty, Daya Sinar sighed. Her thoughts were consumed by the coming danger of May. May was always dangerous. Sasha's warnings about their true nature echoed like a curse in her mind. Daya suddenly asked about the perfume from yesterday, suggesting it might make the prince much happier. Sinar froze. What perfume? She grabbed the empty vial, her eyes widening in pure realization-filled horror. You used the whole bottle. This much would turn any man into a mindless raving beast instantly. Daya turned pale, realizing her massive blunder. She stammered out a weak, terrified excuse for her mistake. Sinar's heart soared. It wasn't him, it was the oil. A flicker of hope ignited in her soul. His heart was true after all. At dinner, Lutz waited anxiously, his eyes glued to her empty seat. She was late. His mind spiraled. Was she so disgusted that she couldn't even look at him anymore? Then the doors swung open. The herald announced the princess, and Lutz's breath caught in his throat. Sinar stood there, looking absolutely divine. Lutz stood up, his heart thundering like a wild war drum. While Sinar puzzled over her husband's sudden dinner invite, Lutz's pulse was absolutely hammering. Facing her questioning gaze, he wrestled with whether to bring up the happy water incident. Finding drug residue in the bathwater reignited her hope. Sinar appeared perfectly submissive. I just found out the maid accidentally used that water. I'm so sorry, Sinar pleaded. Lutz scowled, fuming that a servant's sheer negligence had actually put his wife in danger. He was seething. Smuggling drugs into the palace was a crime that couldn't be ignored. The penalty was execution for such a dangerous mistake. Sinar's heart instantly dropped in terror. Please show mercy. It's my failure. If anyone must be punished, let it be me, Sinar begged. Lutz couldn't understand why she'd take the fall for a mere servant's capital offense. I'll bury this, he muttered, but that girl leaves before she causes more lethal chaos. Sinar spiraled. Dayla was clumsy, but they'd been ride-or-die allies since they were children. Back then, the princess was treated worse than the help, and Dayla was her only support. Kitchen staff loved Dayla's energy, often slipping her untouched treats from the royal banquets. Instead of eating them, Dayla would secretly hoard those sweets, just for her mistress. Sinar never forgot that loyalty. Their deep bond was forged in years of shared hardship. Dayla had sacrificed everything for her in 2 lifetimes. She couldn't just abandon her now. Your Highness, she's the only person I trust here. I'll discipline her myself, please. She desperately pleaded for mercy, her voice trembling as she fought for her only friend. Something in Lutz snapped. He saw his own isolated childhood reflected in her tearful eyes. Remembering his own loneliness while others laughed, his heart softened. Just this once then, Sinar was stunned. She never expected the cold prince to actually show such genuine grace. Beneath his icy exterior, he had a warm soul. Maybe they could truly be partners. Sinar felt a deep urge to repay Lutz, but her knowledge of the future was limited. Suddenly, a memory flashed. If the timeline held, May should already be married to Chatel. She worried for May. If Chatel was bold enough to kidnap princesses, May was in danger. Sinar was terrified that May was walking straight into the same tragic end she suffered. She had to intervene, even though her rebirth might have already shifted the butterfly effect. To be sure, she needed to confirm the current state of affairs back in SARS. Every trauma from her past marriage with Chatel was burned into her mind for a reason. By pinpointing the differences in SARS, she could predict this new timeline's dangerous path. One letter could flip the script for everyone. Meanwhile, Keela heard Lutz was getting cozy. He mocked his brother, laughing that even the Ice Prince couldn't resist a SARS beauty. Let's visit Big Brother. This crown prince needs to either recover fast or just die. Keela sneered at the half-dead heir, finding the whole royal tragedy pathetic and boring. Everyone knew Sinar was the palace's favorite, but her beauty silenced every single hater. Even Daila's life improved despite the terrifying rumors surrounding the ruthless Prince Lutz. People claimed he mutilated servants for minor mistakes, but Daila realized they were just exaggerating. He looked like a beast, but he treated Sinar with genuine care and respect. Meanwhile, Sinar was plotting the biggest hurdle, the crown prince's impending critical illness. His death would trigger a bloodbath for the throne, and the third prince was ready. That man was a snake who would do anything, including framing Lutz to grab power. Lutz won in the end, but he was scarred. This time, Sinar would minimize his suffering. To take down the third prince, she first needed to strategize with the second prince. She headed to Lutz's private study, a place where even his closest allies were barred. Breaking his own rules, Lutz let her in. Inside the room was shrouded in darkness. Even in the dim light, Lutz couldn't hide his grin when he spotted his wife. "You're finally here. You look stunning tonight." Sinar offered a shy smile, admitting she'd dressed up just for him. The nervous boy who used to blush at her was now a smooth operator. He stepped into her personal space, gently lifting her petite, delicate hand. As he leaned in slowly, Sinar's heart hammered against her ribs. Was this really happening? The sudden proximity sent her imagination into overdrive. Doing this in the study felt so scandalous yet thrilling. But then, he simply plucked a stray thread from her hair. "Such a little scatterbrain," he teased with a melting tone. Sinar's face turned bright red. What was she even thinking? In this gloomy study, how did he even notice that? Shaking off the embarrassment, she finally revealed her request. "Your Highness, I need you to teach me how to ride." To survive the palace, she needed to fit in. Right now, she was just labeled as that provocative outsider. The women of Trika are expert riders, Sinar explained, and I don't want to be an embarrassment anymore. Lutz nodded. I'm swamped today, but I'll teach you personally once my schedule clears up. She gasped in surprise. You'll teach me yourself, but you're always so busy with royal duties. Lutz couldn't tell her the truth. The thought of another man touching her or helping her onto a horse made him sick. Jealousy flared at the mere idea of close contact. He'd rather do it himself. The very next morning, Lutz cleared his entire agenda to be his wife's first instructor. He guided her with meticulous protective care. Sinar was a focused student, but disaster struck in an instant. A slight tug on the reins sent the horse bolting. The stallion took off like a shot. Lutz panicked. Sinar, stay calm, pull back slowly and shift your weight. She obeyed frantically, and thanks to Lutz's lightning-fast reflexes, he caught the wild white stallion just in time. Still shaken, he gripped her hand tightly, his knuckles white with worry. I'm so sorry, it's all my fault for being so inexperienced, Sinar whispered, moved by his raw concern. Lutz helped her down, blaming himself for the near tragedy. Next time, I'm hiring a professional coach for you. The lesson ended right there. Go inside and rest, he said, his voice heavy with guilt. Sinar's heart fluttered again. Seeing him so worried made her hopes for their future reach a fever pitch. Days later, Sinar had mastered the basics. She decided to test her skills by heading toward the distant hunting grounds. But a shadow crossed her path. The third Prince Kilo appeared out of thin air with a wicked grin. Kilo smirked. My respects to the second consort. What brings a lady like you to a place like this? You pull off riding gear surprisingly well, though that banquet dress left a much deeper impression on me. Don't get me wrong, you were just too beautiful to forget. Sinar stiffened, remembering Lutz's warning about this man. Lutz had told her to stay far away from Kilo, the mastermind behind her kidnapping. In her previous life, rumors swirled that the third prince was the one who assassinated the crown prince. To investigate the truth, she couldn't afford to offend him yet. Sinar forced a polite, icy smile. I'm honored you remember, but that dress is nothing. I plan to leave a much bigger impact in the future. Kilo's interest peaked. You're far more interesting than my brother. Heading to the hunting grounds. I could show you the way myself. Why settle for a boring trainer? As a rookie, you should just watch a master at work. Sinar knew Kilo was a legendary hunter. This was the perfect opening to gather intel. Despite her trainer's nervous glances, Sinar accepted the offer. They rode into a secluded area. Seeing no one around, Sinar subtly shifted the conversation toward the palace. I heard the crown prince is gravely ill. That must be devastating for you, she probed, watching his reaction. Kilo's expression fell. It's dire. Not even the best doctors can find a cause. He looked genuinely heartbroken. Sinar remembered the past. He was the one who had actually orchestrated the assassination. Once the crown prince died, Kilo had successfully framed Lutz for the murder, ruining his life. To prevent that dark future, Sinar feigned deep sympathy. That is truly a tragedy for the kingdom. She looked visibly shaken. It sounds like his condition is far worse than the public knows. He's wasting away, Kilo sighed. He could draw his last breath at any moment. It's soul-crushing to watch. Sinar froze in shock. In her previous life, the illness was never this aggressive. History was changing way too fast. Deception hung on her lips. Honestly, there was no reason to lie if she simply spoke the truth. That meant the prince's demise came sooner than recorded. Sina opened her mouth to probe further, but thunderous hoofbeats suddenly erupted behind them. Tension radiated from the man. So, you've arrived. What are you two doing here? Kila's smirk widened. Just hanging out. Are you scared we're up to something scandalous? Lud's gaze turned razor sharp. Beat it unfazed, Kila unsheathed his whip with a chilling grin. Fine by me. Then he lashed Sina's horse. The white mare reared up, throwing Sina violently to the dirt. Agony flared through her. It happened in a flash. Lud scrambled to his wife's side. Sina, are you okay? Seeing her mangled arm, Lud glared murderously at Kila, but the third prince had already vanished with a mocking cackle. He gritted his teeth, preparing to mount and give chase. But Sina's hand clamped onto his tunic. Your Highness, wait. Going now will only trigger a bloodbath. Lud's brow furrowed. He's baiting me. Why should I endure this insult? No, I won't let this war ignite because of me. What if you get hurt? We can't escalate this. Sina's tears fell like shattered pearls. I can't bear seeing you wounded for my sake. Please stay. Lud froze something within his cold heart, fracturing at his wife's desperate concern. Curiosity flickered in his eyes. I didn't realize my safety mattered so much to you. Sina hesitated. This marriage was purely business after all. Genuine worry would only seem suspicious to the prince. She quickly countered. I haven't conceived an heir yet. Without you, the palace vultures would rip me apart. Hearing this, disappointment washed over Lud. She didn't care about him, only her status. Why are you so fixated on an heir? Is someone pressuring you behind my back? Sina panicked and scrambled for an explanation. Not at all. My father never treated me like family, so I've always craved a child of my own. If my child were heir, they'd grow up bathed in love. Lud was floored by her vulnerability, somehow. It reminded him of his own mother. His gaze darkened with intensity. Then, why me? My rank is low. Our child will only face mockery and scorn. Sina was speechless. She'd regressed from a future where Lud was the undisputed king of the throne. Her child would be the crown prince. No matter how history shifted, she'd ensure Lud wore the crown. Her silence led to a misunderstanding. Lud let out a soft sigh. Let's head back. He hoisted her onto his horse. Do you regret this? Expecting wealth and power from me? I'm just a prince in name only. It's too late for regrets. You're mine now. Hearing this, Sina was stunned. She clung to him tightly. Your Highness, I have zero regrets. I never have. Not since the moment we met. Lud's heart did a somersault. His ears flushed a deep burning crimson. He expected disappointment, but she chose him. If so, I'll help you conceive that heir very soon. But not yet. You need rest. Sina flushed. I'm fine. Your Highness can visit me whenever you wish. Lud snapped gruffly. Don't be reckless. I won't touch you until you're healed. Focus on recovering. Understand. Sina felt a genuine flutter of emotion. Back in her chambers, her maid, Daya, wailed over her mistress's injury. Sina kept the messy truth hidden from the girl, claiming it was just an accident. It took ages to calm the sobbing maid down. Once alone, Sina replayed the day's chaos. She'd been far too reckless with her actions. Dealing with the third prince required more finesse. Suddenly, Lud stepped into the room. He awkwardly checked on her condition, relieved that her injuries weren't life-threatening. He turned to leave, but Sina called out, Is it true? Is the crown prince dying? Though confused by her sudden interest, he nodded. Sina knew the treacherous third prince was setting a trap. Lud was in danger. She needed him to stay vigilant against Keela's schemes. So she prodded cautiously. If the crown prince falls and you're framed for his death, what then? Lud's brow knitted. He wasn't ready for this talk, so he replied coldly. That's none of your concern. Telling her to sleep, he walked out. Sina realized she'd overstepped, but her heart ached for him to survive the coming storm. Lutz remained on high alert, keeping a predatory eye on the third prince. He knew Sinar was right. Framejob Quilo was definitely ruthless enough to murder his own brother. After those failed kidnappings, he was desperate. The prince would stop at nothing to incriminate him. Lutz immediately ordered Evan to monitor everyone around the heir. Even if a fly buzzed into the crown prince's palace, Lutz wanted a report. Evan was baffled by this intensity. Lutz wasn't playing around. Quilo was a snake who would assassinate the heir just to snatch the throne himself. He's going to set me up, Lutz growled. Evan realized that if Quilo attacked, they had to intervene, but Lutz just smirked. Why stop a disaster? This was the perfect chance to take down both rivals at once. Watching the Queen's sons destroy each other would be a total masterpiece. After Evan left, Lutz watched the rain. Deep in thought, he eventually slipped into Sinar's room. She was fast asleep, looking like a literal angel. The moonlight bathed her face in a soft glow. Lutz reached out his touch feather-light as he watched her. His gaze softened, but a dark fear crept in. If he failed, what would happen to his precious wife? His eyes turned predatory. Sinar belonged to him, and he'd burn the world down before letting anyone take her. Evan was low-key gagging at their constant flirting. Later, Lutz took his consort out for horse riding lessons. Sinar was a natural, but her heart was way too soft. She was actually terrified of hurting the horse. She wouldn't even pull the reins. Lutz stepped in patiently, teaching his wife that she couldn't be so delicate. The horse wouldn't listen otherwise. Sinar felt her ears heat up. Why was the prince getting so close? Was this all just for show? She awkwardly told him that such public intimacy really wasn't necessary. Lutz flinched and accidentally jerked the reins, spooking the horse. The stallion reared up, trying to buck him. The legendary Lutz actually panicked for a second, making Sinar burst into fits of bright laughter. He turned red, silently scolding her. You think this is funny, but seeing her smile changed everything. He'd never seen her so happy. Lutz felt his face heat up. She was breathtaking when she laughed like that. She'd never seen the cool prince so flustered. Suddenly, Lutz couldn't help but lean into her space. He once told her not to be ambitious, but now he wanted to give her the entire world. He vowed to seize the throne, just to make Sinar the most powerful empress in history. From their first meeting to now, his heart had completely fallen for his wife, without him even realizing. Whatever you want, Sinar, I'll get it. Even the crown. The next day, Sinar was vibing during tea. Suddenly, Evan arrived with an urgent summons. Sinar panicked, thinking something had gone horribly wrong with her husband. Why the sudden call? She rushed to the palace, fearing the worst for the second prince. But when she arrived, Lutz was totally chill. He looked at her with eyes so sweet they'd melt. He snapped his fingers, and servants brought out a massive chest. When it opened, they were absolutely floored. They'd never seen a coat so magnificent. Is this... For me, Sinar whispered, her heart skipping a beat. Lutz chuckled. Of course. I've been prepping this for ages. No returns, by the way. Sinar beamed, promising he'd never be embarrassed by her at another banquet. Lutz just smiled. There was more. More boxes arrived, filled with rare jewels. The entire room lit up with treasures she'd only heard of. I didn't know your taste, so I just bought everything, he admitted. Sinar's voice trembled with pure joy. I love them, thank you, Your Highness, Lute smirked, leading her toward the third and final surprise. When they hit the stables, Sinar's jaw dropped. It was a majestic, elegant white horse. A horse, for me. As she stroked its mane, she wondered why he'd go this far. Since you're learning to ride, you need your own mount. This one is gentle, he won't hurt you. He hoisted her onto the saddle with pure affection. Want to take a lap around the grounds? Sinar turned beet red. She was in a fancy dress and definitely wasn't ready to ride like this. Plus, she didn't want to get a single speck of dust on her new coat, Lutz whispered softly. Whatever you want, Sinar. He gently helped her down. Honestly, Sinar was pretty traditional, but his overwhelming kindness was starting to break down her walls. She felt a warmth she'd never known before. Even for someone as reserved as Sinar, being loved like this was starting to feel like a dream. Public displays of affection weren't her vibe. Blushing intensely, Sinar offered her husband a quiet word of thanks. But Lutz gently teased her. We're married, Sinar. Stop thanking me. Didn't you say you wanted an heir? I'll fight for that throne, he vowed, to ensure our son's legacy, and make you the Empire's most noble lady. Sinar was completely rattled. Hope surged violently within her. Could the second prince actually harbor special feelings for her? Later, back in her private chambers, 2 letters were waiting. One was from her mother claiming she was safe and urging Sinar to focus on her own well-being. The other was May's reply packed with critical intel regarding the mysterious Count. She wrote that the Count was grinding lately, discovering rare minerals, despite living under different roofs. The Count was surprisingly attentive. Apparently, he had survived a near-fatal injury recently. Yet he remained stoic about his pain. Sinar exhaled in relief. It seemed May was holding her own. Perhaps May was built differently. Someone with that much spirit wouldn't be easily broken by the Count. Sinar prayed for her safety. Meanwhile, the third prince received intel that could satisfy his darkest desires. Later, Sinar planned to ship some rare local treasures to her mother Daya. She wanted to handle it solo, but recalling May's report, she decided to consult her husband instead. She needed his advice on the gifts and intended to expose Count Shashao's moves. However, Lutz was nowhere to be found. A guard explained that the prince was busy drilling the Imperial soldiers. He had just stepped away for a break. Sinar almost left to avoid bothering him, but then, hearing his wife's voice, Lutz ordered the guards to let her in. His office was shrouded in darkness. It was broad daylight, yet the room remained dim. Sinar was baffled by the gloomy atmosphere. The shadows bring me peace, Lutz noted gloomily, like a serpent seeking a damp, hidden den. He looked truly melancholic. Do you find me strange? Sinar looked down, feeling a deep connection. I feel the same, she confessed. I once felt like a frog trapped under the blinding sun. The sunlit world looked like a fairy tale, yet it felt suffocating. I belonged in the murky swamp. Even in the warmth, I just wanted to crawl back into my dark, damp sanctuary. Lutz felt her words in his soul. Unless we rewrite our destiny, neither of us can escape that swamp. We can only cling to each other. His intense gaze made Sinar's heart race as she blushed deeply. Then, can we kiss in this dim light? Sinar stammered, her voice trembling with nerves. Isn't it daytime? She whispered. Time doesn't exist here, he replied as the temperature between them soared. Ultimately, Lutz gave her a gentle, lingering kiss. All right, business first. Why did you come see me? Sinar refocused. I want to send gifts to my friend May. Do you have any recommendations? The imperial wines are top tier. I'll have the head maid prepare a selection. They chatted further. Then Lutz dropped a heavy question. Has the third prince tried to contact you lately? Sinar froze. He sensed Kilo was acting suspicious and feared he might target Sinar again after their last clash. Suddenly, a past life memory surfaced. Kilo had incited a brutal war before the crown prince's demise. Her sudden silence made Lutz tense. What is it? Did he actually find you? She smiled quickly to calm him. No, he hasn't approached me, Lutz warned. If he does, tell me. I hate others touching what's mine. Sinar nodded, her heart fluttering. She then shifted the conversation to Count Shashao's recent movements. Lutz wondered why that name was surfacing again. Sinar mentioned the intel from May's letter. The Count found new minerals, and she suspected a shady alliance with the third prince was brewing. In her previous life, those minerals were ominous. They were rumored to have terrifying, unexplained properties. Their exact purpose was unknown, but back then, rumors of a Trika prince in peril had spread. Lutz took the warning seriously. He needed to identify those minerals before it was too late. Sinar suggested a tactical angle. Any mineral trade would have to pass through White Sand Canal. Since it was the Empire's war prize, keeping a close watch, there might expose their secret dealings. Having shared everything, Sinar watched as her husband began plotting his next move before she departed. Stepping back from his wife, Lux was hit with a sudden realization. He had initially dismissed her as a fragile garden lily, but her intuition was razor sharp and White Sand was clearly in chaos. Lux decided to bet on his wife's instincts. While keeping a close eye on White Sand, the duo who once saw their marriage as a cold business deal found their icy relationship beginning to melt into something sweet. When Sinar heard the Empress was hosting an exclusive tea party for the royal mothers-in-law, her nerves spiked. Let's be real. Every elite in the palace had treated her like trash since her arrival. But for Prince Lux and her own survival, she had to play the part perfectly. Sinar planned to bring gifts, but the stakes were high. If they were too cheap, they'd laugh her out of the room. Too flashy, and she'd go bankrupt. After digging into the Empress's personal tastes, along with the Crown Princess and the third princess, Sinar turned to Lux. He simply shrugged. Send the most expensive stuff. He then handed her a velvet case. Inside sat the Tapo diamond ring, a legendary treasure practically extinct in the Empire. Knowing the third prince's wife was chronically jealous, this was the ultimate bait. Lux gently slid the ring onto her finger. Adoring her with eyes that screamed devotion, he whispered how breathtaking she was. Sinar's face instantly burned a deep crimson. With her game face on, Sinar arrived at the tea room. But the moment she sat down after exchanging polite pleasantries, the Empress went straight for the jugular. Is there some secret drama between you and the second prince? Why is your womb still empty? Sinar kept her cool, replying, Your Majesty, everything between the prince and I is perfect. I know you're together daily, so why no pregnancy is the second prince? Lacking in some way. Sinar was stunned into silence. Sure, they spent time together, but they weren't exactly active behind closed doors every night. It was crystal clear the Empress was intentionally making her life a living hell, just because she could. She demanded a royal heir immediately. The Empress then lectured Sinar about obsessing over her health and ensuring Lux saw the royal physicians regularly. The Empress then turned her sharp tongue toward the Crown Princess, scolding her for the Crown Prince's failing condition. The doctor reported his health was nosediving, turning the room's atmosphere into a suffocating pressure cooker. Sinar, desperate to break the tension, presented her carefully chosen gifts, hoping to win them over. Suddenly, the third prince's wife scoffed. Are these those tacky czar dresses? Sinar just smiled, knowing the Empress was a secret martial arts fanatic. She presented a blade forged by a legendary master, and the Empress's eyes lit up. It was a Marcel sword, a masterpiece of craftsmanship that was literally unrivaled. The Empress's icy expression finally began to thaw. You've been quite thoughtful. For the Crown Princess, Sinar offered an exquisite manuscript by the legendary Master Leo. The Crown Princess was obsessed with it. As for the third prince's wife, Sinar followed Lux's ruthless strategy. Feed her envy until she was consumed by greed. To achieve this, Sinar handed over a jewelry set so dazzling it was blinding. The wife was instantly hooked, her expression revealing she'd never even touched something so high-end before. Instantly, the group's hostility towards Sinar evaporated. As the party wrapped up, the Crown Princess pulled Sinar aside for a private chat regarding the prince's grim health. Having no real allies to talk to, the princess had become a total bookworm to escape her lonely reality. Sinar used literature as a bridge to spark a deep conversation, slowly dismantling the Crown Princess's high defenses until they agreed to meet regularly. Later at dinner, Lux learned his wife had successfully charmed the Crown Princess, but he warned her to stay sharp. The Crown Prince was his direct rival. While agreeing, Sinar dropped the intel she had gathered during their private tea. The Crown Prince was fading fast, and once he died, the third prince would likely launch a coup for the throne. He was becoming bloodthirsty in his hunt for power. Lux paused. Sinar, why are you so worried about Kilo? I'm the Prince of Tricus. Handling threats is my job. Why the sudden interest? Sinar's heart skipped a beat. Had she pushed too far? Lowering her gaze, she whispered, I'm just genuinely terrified for your safety, Your Highness. Lux's expression softened into a gentle smile. Kilo kidnapped you because of me. I failed to protect you then. Sinar was floored. Your Highness, that's not what I meant. Lux gently cut her off. What I'm saying is, don't force yourself into these dangerous social circles for me. I'm watching them both. Your care means everything, but don't stress. I'll always be your shield. Sinar felt his sincerity, yet a lingering fear remained, the fear of falling back into the abyss. That paralyzing dread kept her awake, a nightly torment that wouldn't end as long as Count Shaka still drew breath. Rest was impossible. Shifting gears, Lutz mentioned classified reports regarding White Sand City's secret transport of raw minerals. However, a direct link to Count Shuttle remained unconfirmed, leaving the investigators in a state of high-stakes uncertainty. So Lutz's spies kept quiet. The chilling reality, those minerals were highly volatile and ready to blow. An alliance between Shaka and Kilo meant instant weaponry. Without Sinan Lu's intel, Lutz would have been totally blindsided. Sinan felt a wave of relief, thankful the second prince was actually willing to consider her warnings. Perhaps in her past life, the third prince also conspired with Chatel. Without that corrupt alliance, the third prince would have struggled to ever truly defeat a powerhouse like Lutz. Lutz Sinan urged gravely, be careful. He just smirked and raised his glass. A playful look crossed his lips. Why that face? Don't stress, I'm handling every single detail. Sinan blushed slightly. As you wish.